All right. No overlay. Yeah, no overlay we'll rock with. Welcome in. First stream since the draft dan. Dynasty and beers on a Tuesday. Might have to go back-to-back nights. We'll see about that.
Yeah. I think we'll still probably stream again tomorrow on our regular night on Wednesday. But yeah, first stream we're doing here since the NFL draft. Yeah, I mean, how long ago was that? Was that like a couple weeks ago, something like that, or just a week ago? I don't know. It seems like a lot's happened since then. Yeah, just a week ago. But it feels like a lot has happened because like we're definitely well into rookie season. I'm sorry, rookie draft season. I have completed 6 rookie drafts already. So yeah, definitely a lot has happened. Definitely a lot to talk about. I'm sure we'll cover some of our takes in terms of some of the landing spots and impact of the NFL draft. Well, I'm sure we'll get into those as we go along here. But yeah, good to be back. And yeah, how's it going, man? Deeper into like all these prospects, I really began to fully appreciate just how deep the class is. Because even a lot of running backs that aren't even getting drafted in some of these rookie drafts are really, really intriguing. So I'm loving the players that were getting off waivers after the draft, and particularly running backs. Also, what's interesting that I've noticed is that it's kind of a crapshoot in terms of like in the players in the 3rd and 4th round. Like there's kind of this big pool of players where like they could go in the 3rd round, they could go in the 4th round, or they could go undrafted. So you really don't know like which players are going to be on waivers after the draft. Like it could be someone's there that like, oh man, like they went in the 3rd round in my other rookie draft, and like now they're undrafted and like they're sitting there on waivers, and I could get them for fab if I had the winning bid. So I think that's been like a really interesting takeaway or observation. And I think one of the takeaways of that, and I actually haven't even mentioned this to you yet, but I'm kind of curious what you think about it. One theory that I have in terms of like how best to react to that and take advantage of that is like, so like if you kind of see, because like it feels like there's this big tier fall off like near the end of the 2nd round. Because like, toward the end of the 2nd, like you get guys coming off the board like Tootin, like Jack Besh, like Jalen Knoll, Kyle Williams. And then like after those guys, it kind of feels like there's this like big drop off. I mean, maybe if you're in a big tight end premium league, maybe you include some of those like tight ends in there, but I've kind of been fading tight end in general. So once that like tier falls off, then you're kind of considering like, it's like this big group of running backs. And I guess like Jaden Blue's at the top of that because he has like the really good landing spot with the Cowboys where he could really get some opportunity in year 1 to be fantasy relevant. But then like you're just kind of looking at this like huge flat tier of like running backs and like just a bunch of like dart throw receivers and there a handful of interesting tight ends left and some flyers at quarterback. And it's just kind of like you could make the case for anyone. So in terms of how to take advantage of like how it's just been like the Wild West, like after round 2, I'm thinking that like probably the best thing you can do is like trade up into the 1st and 2nd round, like as much as possible for the most part. Like use your 3rds and 4ths to trade up into the 1st and 2nd round of your rookie drafts, and then just let everyone else make the picks in rounds 3 and 4, and then whoever they don't pick, inevitably it's going to be some really interesting players that are just left on waivers. And if you get really aggressive with your fab, you can like scoop up a bunch of these guys, provided you have the roster room. And then it's like, let's say you scoop up like 6 players like with aggressive fab bids after your rookie draft. It's like you basically just got 6 free 4th round picks. So that's kind of the way I'm thinking that like you beat the system here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some good points there, especially, I mean, like think about if you don't have too many picks or I like the idea a lot of getting in, especially into the back of that 2nd round. Especially if you're, whatever the take is on the tight ends, but like I think like Taylor's in there if you're in a big premium. He's kind of in that tier up fall off for me, just right before it. So like I want to be, getting to that like Mason Taylor spot at the 2-3 turn. I want to get before the Jaden Blue pick. Basically, is where I'm at.
Right,
Now.
exactly. Yeah, Jaden Blue is like that line of demarcation or whatever you call it, where it just seems like he's that like first pick after the tier fall off.
Because you're just like, ah, man, like I just kind of have to take him now. I've done that once. I think you have. And so that's.
I mean, I'm happy to trade out of that Jaden Blue pick.
Yeah, I have once as well.
He just seems like the clear like next guy, but even then it feels like a big tier fall off. And then after Jaden Blue goes, and it's like, well, now what? Like, do I just kind of reach for my guy? Do I play the ADP game? But it's even hard to play the ADP game because like it varies so much from draft to draft. I feel like more than I've ever experienced, since I started playing Dynasty in like 2020, where you just, I'm starting to get a good sense of like, okay, this guy usually goes here, usually goes there, but you're seeing a lot of exceptions. Like, I mean, for instance, like one guy we both like a lot is Woody Marks, the running back that went to the Houston Texans and got that 4th round draft capital, which was really nice and a little surprising. And, so there was one draft where I felt like, you know what, like I feel like Woody Marks usually doesn't go to like the 4th round. Like I can probably wait till then. And so I was like taking other running backs we like, such as Jordan James and Giddens. And then all of a sudden, boom, I get sniped on Woody Marks at like the 306. I'm like, holy crap, I've never seen him go that early. So, but there was like a run on running backs like right before then, partially caused by like me taking Jordan James and Giddens. And so I think then that manager just said like, okay, screw it, I'm just going to get my guy, like, before he gets taken. So yeah, you really never know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, like, it's been a little all over the place. Like, we saw Jordan James in that one draft just, like, fall. ETN fell to the 4-12 in our draft. But, like, the thing is, like, I've been drafting those guys kind of where I think they should be going. And I have seen people take them exactly where I've been taking them. But, like, at the same time, if I'm not taking them, or you're not, Dan, there is that chance that they just tumble down the board. Because no one else cares about them, or again, ETN is like not even on the sleeper ADP. He's buried. So there's always
it's so
a chance.
Crazy. He's you have to click on running backs and then like scroll all the way to the bottom, and he's like the last name in like the list of rookie running backs,
which is why I have so much of him, because he's always the last running back to go. Devin Neal goes ahead of him every time.
Oh yeah, people are forgetting about DTN. So like I've kind of been pushing my luck with him, and I got him at the 412 in Blood, Sweat, and Beers, and then I ended up trading him to you. For two picks. So yeah, I mean, he's been an unbelievable value. So yeah. I had like 3 shares of ETN, and then after the trade, I still have 2 now, but yeah, he's been basically free. So that's one you can kind of count on, but like any of the other guys that like aren't completely buried in ADP, you just don't know where they're going to go. And it's hard because like a lot of these running backs, there are a bunch of these running backs that you and I both really like a lot. We play in a lot of the same leagues together. So we've just kind of been picking them where we think they're, worth going, where they're like the best player on the board. But then we started realizing, well, wait a minute. If you or I weren't drafting them, like how late would these guys go?
Yeah.
So I actually decided to test that in one league with which running back did I test that with? I forget which one it was now. But I was just kind of pushing my luck on it. I think it was Jordan James. Yeah.
D-Gens, yeah. James.
Yeah, it was a D-Gens draft. Yeah. So I'll pull it up right now. But yeah, I just decided to. I had like 3 picks like that weren't like too far apart from each other. Like it was like in the 3rd round, going into the 4th round, and so I decided to just kind of like push my luck and see if I could get Jordan. See how late I could get Jordan James. Like how far would he fall if you or I weren't picking him? Because I think you didn't have too many picks, so I didn't have to like worry about you. So it was like the perfect time to test this theory.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah. So looking at the 3rd round of the Bums and Ballers draft. Okay, I had the 312, and I decided to go Harold Fannin because it's a 0.75 tight end premium, and I hadn't gotten a share of him yet. So I took Harold Fannin at the 312, even though I was really tempted to take Jordan James there. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to push my luck. So I went Fannin. And then I was up next at the 404. And again, like that, I mean, that would have been a great value on Jordan James just to have taken him right there. But again, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to push my luck further. So I took Isaac Tesla there because I didn't think he'd last beyond that. Coda was picking after me, so we knew we knew Coda was going to take him if I didn't.
And you know, I just pulled it up here, by the way, so we can just see.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so yeah, we can get there. So I took Tesla, pushed my luck again, and then Jordan James was still sitting there at my next pick, 2 picks later at the 406. Yeah. So finally I just said, okay, I can't wait any longer. Like, he is so far and away the top player on my board here. I'm just going to take him. So yeah, you never know, but at the same time, I could have gotten unlucky and someone could have sniped me on him. So yeah, you never know, and it's hard to know when you have these guys you like and you're like taking them in a lot of the drafts, and then you don't really know like how far they would go.
Yeah. The key here is like, let's take a look at these players, right? Neil's like this reach. Like, I mean, at least in my opinion, I think in your opinion, Neil's a reach. Howard's a reach. You get the what's it called? Alec, reach. You get the Jalen Royals reach again. As far as just like, I don't know if I can give a case for him being drafted, and then Ollie Gordon going over, whatever, 6th round running back or 4th. So yeah, it did test. Oh yeah, and Pat Bryan, of course, doesn't normally go here, but he's been rising. To early 4th. It seems like every time. So yeah, good.
And I've even seen Pat Bryan go in the 3rd 2 different times. I mean, obviously he went in the late 3rd here. And I also saw him going I think the mid-3rd, mid to late 3rd in another draft. So yeah, he's been kind of steadily rising up.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that was an interesting, I don't know, a little case study of like how the running backs can kind of just go anywhere. And then guess what? You got Jordan James to fall. I didn't think it was any chance ETN would fall there. Now, I've gotten him a couple times at late 4th already. But when we did the break room draft, I think we picked him at 4-1, and I just didn't feel. I thought people were drafting pretty efficiently in the 3rd round there. I had no faith he would make it if we traded back with an offer we got to just a 4-4. So I just kind of stuck with my gut and just said, we're not making the trade back. We're taking our guy. And sure enough, the manager that wanted to trade up said he was taking ETN there. So you just never know, right? Like, the one draft he's the 4-1, and then the next he's the 4-12. I just checked, by the way. I have 5 ETN shares in 6 drafts so far. So, and been getting him all over the 4th.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it makes sense though, because like he's the one guy that you can usually count on to fall because of that ADP glitch on Sleeper, which is he's basically just like free in these drafts, which is amazing.
He truly is an ADP glitch. And here's the thing: no one was talking about him pre-draft. Do I think he's some rock solid prospect? No, but he's a 4th round draft capital running back. I'm thinking back to last year's 4th round draft capital running backs. We got Bucky Irving, Braylon Allen, Ray Davis. Who else? There's probably another one.
I mean, Tracy was 5th round. I'm trying to think of the other 4th rounds.
But all those are relative hits from where you were taking them.
Jalen Wright.
Jalen Wright. All those relative hits, except for Jalen Wright, who has a chance to at least keep the backup job. I know we liked him. Yeah. But like, that's the bet I want to make with a 4th round running back is, can he be, I don't know, Ray Davis or whatever, just a solid handcuff? That's probably what I think ETN is just a solid handcuff that can catch the ball and score some fantasy points. And hopefully you get some more out of him. But
the thing I've been struggling with, and just in terms of like making decisions, because there are so many running backs I like, and there are even like a few receivers that I like in rounds 3 and 4 as well that we could talk about. I feel like as I've looked into things deeper, like I have found some interesting guys that I'm definitely interested in drafting those rounds. But the thing I'm struggling with in general, and particularly at running back, is just like how much to value draft capital in the equation of like how I'm ranking these running backs and what order I'm drafting them in. Because I've kind of found myself going back and forth because, I mean, certainly draft capital matters just in terms of like, it's a reflection of what the NFL team thinks of the player, how invested they are into him. So we know that certainly has an impact in Dynasty, especially beyond like the rookie season. Like, we know that it continues to have an impact. But, these days in Dynasty, like probably like the biggest thing we're thinking about is that like year 1 impact. And if we're focusing on like the year 1 production, because that's going to determine so much of their value, especially at running back, where it's more of a position of opportunity than talent as far as fantasy football goes. could draft capital be somewhat overrated? You know what I mean? Because like that's what I'm trying to weigh in my mind is like, if I'm choosing between like Trevor Etienne and let's say like Kyle Monangai, who I know you're not super high on, but I actually really like. And I thought, his landing spot's amazing. Going to the Bears, who need a running back. I mean, they're just like begging for a running back to come in there and like take over that job. And you got Ben Johnson in there. You got a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just an amazing landing spot.
Yeah. So what matters more is what you're saying is it landing spot or is it draft capital, right?
Capital. Yeah. If I'm really like splitting hairs, like if I like both of the prospects a lot, I think they're like, let's say I think they're both really good running backs. Do I go with like ETN because he has the greater draft capital, greater team investment? Or do I go with like a Monangai or like maybe a Brashard Smith or someone that I think is really going in a spot where like they're going to have a chance to take over the backfield, because I do think those running backs are talented, even if they don't have the draft capital, and they're going in a great situation where like they're really going to have a chance to get on the field and get some touches. And have an impact in fantasy. So I'm kind of torn between the two of those. But I think it's a particularly interesting discussion with running backs because, again, how it's more based on opportunity than talent, as we know. So this would be a different conversation with receivers, of course. But yeah, how are you breaking that tie when you're kind of torn between two running backs in like the third, fourth round?
So, first of all, Jacob, welcome to the chat. He was asking kind of the same thing. Explain ETN. He thinks ETN's bad, and then he said, just pure draft capital. And this kind of like ties into what you were just asking, Dan. I'm a big believer. Like I think we all know that landing spots extremely important for running backs. One thing is though, I mean, players like if you get a draft capital still though. And maybe this is like kind of like the ETN. Let's call this almost like the ETN versus the Ollie Gordons and the Monangais and the Brashard Smith kind of thing here, right? And the reason why I'm leaning ETN versus all of those guys, if I just have to make the pick, call it once, and the reason why is, well, number one, I definitely care about historical hit rates past decade plus of data. It's not going to favor any Brashard Smith or Monangai. Again, I'm still trying to get Brashard Smith, a guy like that, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Taj Brooks, I'm still drafting these guys, but I'm getting them with basically the Mr. Relevant picks.
Yeah.
Draft capital equals opportunity, right? When a team invests in you, they're going to give you a shot, earn that chance. And there's little investment in Rico Dowdle, though I think Rico Dowdle's good. So like a player like ETN for me, I'm getting him in like the mid fourth basically as an average ADP. I mean, you just can't ask for a better bet as far as, okay, this guy's probably going to get a chance to be the backup. Hopefully this year, if not, hopefully it's next year. One thing to consider is Jonathan Brooks is still floating around there. I mean, who the hell knows about him? Honestly, I think the best thing is just ignore him at this point, right? The double ACL.
Oh yeah, that's the funny thing. Honestly, I've forgotten about Jonathan Brooks, but it is funny that you bring him up because even without Jonathan Brooks, it kind of feels like a crowded backfield already, just between like Chuba Hubbard, whom we both love, and then Rico Dowdle's like. I mean, he was a solid starter for the Cowboys last year. He's certainly a very solid backup for the Panthers. And then now you add Trevor Etienne to the mix, who gets the fourth round draft capital. And then, by the way, Jonathan Brooks, who they drafted in, what was it, round one last year?
Round two, yeah.
Wait, round two, yeah. But, it's crazy crowded. So, like, I really don't love the landing spot. Not that it's, like, the worst, because, like, if Jonathan Brooks is kind of out of the picture, is there even, like, a 5% chance that, like, Trevor Etienne ends up, like, kind of taking, like, the main job from Chuba Hubbard? Like, maybe. There has to be at least a chance.
Yeah, I mean, they just extended him. One thing I will say, as you know how much I love Chuba Hubbard, but, like, ETN is, to me, if you're going to be a fourth-round running back, you want to be behind Chuba Hubbard. That's it. You want to be behind Chase Brown. Guys like that. I mean, they have little investment. They signed the contract. Again, I have, like, 50% Chuba Hubbard, but if I want to invest in that backfield now, I'm not buying more Chuba Hubbard. I'm buying Dowdle or I'm buying ETN for peanuts. Because if there's a running back archetype in the NFL, like this Chuba Hubbard's going to be the guy you're attacking for. It's not necessarily an ambiguous backfield, but it could end up playing out like that where his job's not as secure even with a contract. We see it all the time. Miles Sanders, Swift, etc. Like the contract doesn't, and then Ramondre. It doesn't really mean much if you're just like a mid running back. Whether Chuba is or not, it's kind of hard to tell exactly. So, anyways, the point here is, I think in this Carolina backfield, I guess if we're really narrowing it down to like this specific argument, there's a lot of guys in that backfield, but are any of them like that talented? I don't know. I mean, it says a lot. I think the 4th round pick, right? Like if Jonathan Brooks was an issue, I don't think they would have drafted ETN, right? If Dowdle was necessarily like he might be there 1 year, he could fend off ETN for sure. But again, we're basically talking a roster spot. That's what ETN's costing you. It's not really anything. So it gets a little more interesting when you have to pay up a little bit more for Jarquez Hunter. That's a pretty complicated situation.
I was just about to bring that up because, of course, like that was one spot where we didn't think it was likely that the team would draft a running back, but we knew there'd be a few surprises, and so that ended up being one of them. So they draft Blake Corum in round 3 last year as, kind of like the Kyron Williams doppelganger, if anything.
You get nearly a third doppelganger here in Hunter. I mean, he's extremely similar, but he's the most explosive of the 3 now.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And so, I really like Jarquez Hunter. And in theory, it's a good landing spot because, Rams offense and, Sean McVay usually uses one running back. So it's like, okay, if he gets to the top of that depth chart, either through injury or just performance, then that could be a great situation for him. But now it's so crowded now with the 3 guys there. Kyron Williams is the established starter. And then Blake Corum, although he didn't do a lot last year, he has the draft capital advantage over Hunter. And I think Corum is a good running back. We didn't see a lot of evidence of that last year, but I think he was one of those candidates for I don't know if I'd call it a year 2 breakout, but I certainly think he would get a little more opportunity in the second year. And I think if Kyron Williams ever did get injured, because I don't think Kyron Williams missed many, if any, games last year, so Corum didn't really get much of a chance. But if Corum got this chance this year, I think he'd really show what he's capable of. But now it's complicated by Hunter going there. So, and honestly, I've been hearing, I just saw some clips of Sean McVay talking, and I think it was the Rams GM talking as well. And it sounds like they might be using all 3 of these running backs. I mean, it sounds like there is some risk of a committee this year, which kind of makes me nervous for my. I don't think I have that much Kyron Williams. I think I just have 1 share, but makes me a little nervous for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Corum is interesting because it's hard to know. I mean, I think this is the biggest thing to acknowledge. Did the Rams even know how that backfield's going to shake out? Of course, right. Here's the thing. I'm not necessarily buying when you're this early in the offseason. I'll buy it maybe in training camp, but coach speak is coach speak, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna use what was his name? Isaiah Davis. He's just as good as Breece Hall. That's not obviously the case. What are they gonna mean? He's gonna get 2 touches a game, or is it gonna be he's gonna get
what's the 50%? Coach gonna say? That guy's just gonna ride our bench.
Yeah, he's cut. I don't buy into the coach speak personally, especially at this point in the offseason. It's different when you're right before the season, training camp, etc. That's when it's more valuable. But and by the way, Jacob says Corum, he's just a water boy. Jarquez is just chilling. But look. I mean, again, I want to look at what teams are doing with their draft capital, with their picks, and what that tells us about the team. Now, the thing about Hunter is you're getting him past 5th round running backs like Giddens and stuff like that. I'm taking Giddens ahead of him. I'm taking Woody Marks ahead of him because of the clear just handcuff. It seems like I'd be shocked if those guys weren't the pure handcuffs. So the fact that you're never getting Hunter. You're never having to take Hunter ahead of those guys. That's why I'm so okay taking Hunter, and I have probably at least 50% Hunters, because I think he's a good player, and I'm not too sure. Again, I feel there's a little bit of ambiguousness in this situation. Kyron's on a contract year. People are skeptical of him, although I think probably Kyron's, again, the numbers in some way might suggest he's a really good running back, and others like explosiveness, plays last year, it might say he's a terrible running back. However you want to look at those numbers, I think he's solid, but he's on a contract year and he's a running back. That's kind of the backfield I want to be betting on, and it's the goddamn Rams, right? So with that being said, Corn being picked, yeah, I mean that muddies the situation up. But again, like looking at this draft 4-2, he's basically going purely on a 3-4 turn.
Jarquez Hunter.
Jarquez Hunter. And I think that's completely fine, right? Like I'm not taking Arroyo over him and whatnot. Like I just can't do it with like these Iamanners and Jalen Royals. It's just those guys aren't pushing the needle for me. I'd rather go to the waiver wire in those cases to find a player like that. Give me Gatson later over Arroyo, or give me Jalen Lane instead of Iamman or whatever it is. Let me pick Hunter here. Like I see the upside of how he's valuable.
And I appreciate your point about the coach speak. I think that's definitely something we got to keep in mind when we hear quotes like that, what came from like McVay and the Rams GM. But I think the reason why I do think there could be why I do think those comments might hold some water is something that you even alluded to. You said, let the draft capital kind of like speak for the team. And like, well, they spent a third on Corum last year, even when they had Kyron Williams coming off a great season. And then even with those two running backs, now they also spent a 4th round pick, which is not nothing for a running back, on Jarquez Hunter. So like, I'm not sure why you're making those picks if you don't plan on using those guys to some degree. I mean, I think you could justify the Corum pick just because, like, he was so similar to Kyron, and it's just like, okay, like, they want the insurance and everything, but Kyron can still be the workhorse. But now you add, like, a third guy with, like, decent draft capital. I know it was a deep running back class, and maybe it was just hard to pass up on taking somebody, but I just don't know why you make that pick if you're not going to use him, if you don't have some plan for him. So I do think there could be some credence behind what McVay is saying there. And, I do have some concern there. And here's the other issue. Just in terms of the value of both Corum and Hunter, I feel like they're both less appealing now because, like, neither one of them is, like, the true clear handcuff to Kyron at this point. And what if it does end up being something of a committee, 2-headed committee, 3-headed committee? And then it's like, none of those guys are really that interesting because one of the biggest appeals of the Rams backfield is that they ride one guy. Whoever wins it is going to be like the workhorse. But if that's not even true anymore, even if like Kyron gets injured, then is it just going to be like a 2-headed committee between Corum and Hunter? So I just kind of feel like the whole thing is a bit of a mess that, like, honestly, I'm not dying to own any of them at this point.
Yeah.
But sure, like there's a point in rookie drafts where I'll still take Hunter because in theory, like it's still a decent situation and I like his talent and he doesn't really cost that much. But he's one of those guys where like I'm just going to push my luck on and I'm going to try to get him like well into the 4th round. And if I get sniped, I get sniped. But like I'm okay with that.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think that's all fair. It's just going to be how you're looking at him versus these other players. And really, he's the last running back before ETN because ETN's auto ADP glitched the last running back. So technically, Hunter is the last of those Jordan James and Sampsons and whatnot that I'm taking. Like, I'll still take Jordan James over him personally, just with the San Fran. I think he's really good.
And I've been taking ETN over Hunter, and I know like I could probably get away with like taking Hunter first. But the problem is, like, I don't have unlimited rookie picks. So, like, if I do take Hunter first, then, like, ETN might go if I don't have another pick, like, a few picks later or something like that. So
there's
sometimes you just got to kind of get your guy.
So there's the key. If, like, a lot of these drafts, I've had a bunch of 4s. And I'm always playing the ADP game. So I'm able to take Hunter and get back to ETN. But also, one thing when I'm just drafting rookies in general, like, you see you take Sampson here at 3.7 and Miller at 3.5. I actually did end up taking another Sampson. I forget what draft, kind of mid-3rd. But it's like
Blood, Sweat, and
Beers. Yeah, I'll take even if I don't even like love the pick, I'll just take them because it's behind their ADP. And I'm playing in 12 or 13 leagues now. It's like I'm just playing the portfolio / like value game. Like if I can get a great deal on a player, especially if I know I'm not going to get a lot of them at their normal ADP, I'm just making the pick. and I'm just not really sweating, the actual decision or the player take. Um,
Yeah, because we got
right?
burned not like owning. I think we drafted 0 Bucky Irving each last season,
Yeah.
so that kind of burned us. And Sampson kind of reminds me of Bucky Irving in a sense, like where with both players, like I wasn't like blown away with them where when I watched them play, but as I studied Sampson more, I kind of realized that like even though he's not like the most explosive guy, he doesn't like jump off the screen. Like I think he's good at football and just kind of like subtle ways. And he really dominated in the SEC. I think you have to, give him his flowers for that. So I think he's one of those guys where like, you know, he might be easy to overlook if you're just kind of like studying the tape or whatever. Although I know some people maybe really like his tape and are higher on him than my impression. But he's one of those guys where it's just like the tape might not fully do him justice. And I think, yeah, he's just a guy I don't want to have 0 shares of.
No, yeah, I agree. I don't want to have 0. I mean, the community was really high on him pre-draft, right? And I was a little skeptical of that. Just as far as like the Tennessee back, basically anything Tennessee is really sketchy.
Right.
As far as like you kind of almost have to just ignore the production, right? Like that OC really puts his players in what was it, the Bletnikoff to Jalen Hyatt and all that, right? Like and all these running backs dominating. It's tough to necessarily trust that system in these players converting to the NFL in recent memory.
Yeah.
So that's always been my hesitation with Sampson. But yeah, I mean he's getting drafted within our rookie. Could be a change of pace back at worst. I'm willing to take him. Right ahead of Jarquez Hunter. No issue there. But let's talk about quickly about our favorite pick, or at least my favorite pick. Maybe you have I know you like Gadsden a lot recently because he's really cheap. But Woody Marks.
And like the funny thing, like I mentioned, like I'm really fading tight ends, which might seem strange because this is considered a very good tight end class. And I'm not saying that it isn't. I mean, there are definitely some tight ends that I'm intrigued by, but I'm just kind of like into fading the position in general. And by fading, it doesn't mean that like I don't want to own a bunch of tight ends, especially if it's like certainly in a big tight end premium, I want to own a bunch of them. But I just kind of want the cheap guys. I want to sort of like do it with volume if it's like a 2 PPR for tight ends. But yeah, I don't love drafting rookie tight ends. Like they often take a while to develop. And they just kind of end up being roster cloggers, and they break out after you give up on them. And, your other manager picked them up off of waivers for a $0 bid after you dropped them after like 2 years. And so, yeah, I just don't think they're great investments. I feel like I'm more likely to get a return on my investment in year 1 from a running back or wide receiver. So that's where I've been focusing my draft picks on. But yeah, I really love getting Gadsden late. I mean, he just seems like a screaming value. I mean, I got him at the 506 or something like that in a 12-team league. Non-tight end premium, but still, I thought that was an incredible value.
Yeah, no, exactly. And by the way, Hawkeyes or Cooper has been in the chat. Got to acknowledge that. Saying Tuesday stream, and also was just saw my draft board there. Was mentioning smart draft Blake, grabbed a lot of RBs. And yeah, I completely agree with this. Wide receiver is it's almost like a wasted pick. Because of hit rates, but not only that, like I'm just look at the receivers in like round 3. I mean, is there even a receiver being drafted round 3? There wasn't in this draft, right? Like round 3 is really the spot where you take your shot on basically no wide receiver. And then round 4, these Teslas and Bryants and stuff become interesting. But like Hawkeyes is mentioning, we love Torrey Horton. Like you don't even need to use a draft pick on him. Just go get him for fab. Like why even waste a draft pick?
I mean, I feel like he's usually getting drafted now.
Really? Okay, yeah. I mean, I've only done I guess 1 draft. I think he went 5th round in Blood, Sweat, and Beers like recently. Is the only one I've done.
Yeah, I got him in Blood, Sweat, and Beers. I can't remember whether it was 4th or 5th, but I was really happy that I was able to trade up and grab him.
Yeah.
Trade in. Yeah, I'll check right now for fun. But yeah, I love Torrey Horton. Like
he's been hitting wires, but yeah, exactly. I really like Torrey Horton pre-draft.
And that just goes to my point. That just goes to my point of like, this big pool of guys that are going like either third round, fourth round, or undrafted, and like it's anyone's guess. You know what I mean? Like there's no consensus of the order, whereas like there's a lot more consensus in rounds 1 and 2. I mean, of course, there's variations each rookie draft, but like there's a lot more order to it and predictability to it compared to just the Wild West that it is after round 2.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Hawkeyes mentions the Jalen Milroe pick here. Yeah, I think Milroe is his own conversation, but basically, to sum up my opinion on him, if I can get him in round 3 somewhere, like I would way rather have him over Shook and Sanders and like any of those guys. Will Howard. I mean, it's just not even close. I mean, he's in the same situation, if not even like better, because Sanders has to fight with like 5 quarterbacks, one of the biggest drops in all time NFL draft, drops, whatever you want to call it, fallers. Shook, like I just not really interested in like this Derek Carr, and he maybe he's just like Derek Carr 2.0, but like trash. All this stuff. Milroe, if he gets out there, I know he's scoring fantasy points. That's what I care about, right? Like he's gonna run around all over the field, whether he can pass or not. I honestly don't care about. And he has Sam Darnold ahead of him, so. As much as I appreciate what Sam Darnold did for the Vikings last year, that's a quarterback room. You want to be like getting the backup in. You want to be challenging against it, especially if you're not investing in Darnold. If you're not investing in Darnold, you're not buying him. So you should get his backup as far as. Otherwise, I suppose like the Seattle quarterback situation is actually a pretty decent situation. Maybe the best way I can sell it is, if you don't believe it's Sam Darnold, well, guess what? Jalen Milroe is now in line to potentially get some starts this year, or maybe even be the guy next year.
Right, but the problem is I saw this recent video from Dynasty Domain, and they were talking about Jalen Milroe, and they were talking about like the historical hit rates for quarterbacks drafted in round 3 of the NFL draft, and it's absolutely brutal. I mean, you should have seen this list. I mean, it was like
trust me. It's abysmal. But here's my counterpoint, right? That's why you don't draft Shook and Sanders, Will Howard, because they all fit the statue quarterback and no rushing upside. Yeah. When you look at these hits of people that are going, well, again, like there's like the Purdy, but Dak was a rusher in his rookie year and stuff like that. Like these, and there was Jalen Hurts and stuff like that. If you have legs, you can be the outlier, right? Do I know that he's the outlier? Absolutely not. But again, we are talking 3rd round rookie pick.
Well, I think the problem is like I feel like I see him more often than not going in the 2nd round.
Exactly, he does too.
That's the point that they were making on this video on Dynasty Domain, is they were saying like basically you're hoping that Jalen Milroe shows something where he is now worth a 2nd round rookie pick.
Yeah.
But guess what? If he's currently going in the 2nd round. So like you're kind of taking him like almost at his ceiling, not that he couldn't be worth a first someday, but that would be such an unlikely outcome. So like really, if you're not taking him, 3rd round of your rookie draft at the earliest, there's really not a lot of realistic room to profit off of that pick.
Yeah, I completely agree with that logic. That's why I'm not taking him the 2nd, though. Right here in a room where we need a quarterback and we got 3-5, and with 3 picks in a row, not to mention. Easy choice, like at that point. But yeah, exactly. You're right. He is actually normally a late 2nd, and that's why I'm not clicking him, because I'm just maneuvering on the board a little bit better, so I don't have to make that pick. But yeah, the one thing is that I think I'm willing to. There's a lot of stuff in this whole Milroe case where I'm willing to buy it in the 3rd round, where normally I wouldn't. Like I see it all. I see the signs for like an outlier, I suppose, which normally I don't want to look for. But it's been adding up as far as I can see the starts. But that's a great point. You need him to get in the game for him to even be worth a 2nd round pick, right? Like, otherwise, what is he? He's worth a 3rd next year or something. So why draft him higher?
Yeah, but unfortunately, I haven't gotten any shares of him. I mean, he's definitely a fun player. I'd love to get a share, but he rarely falls to the 3rd round, and I've just never been on the clock where like he was there and it was like the 3rd round that I can remember. So it is what it is. So he might just be one of those players that I don't get any shares of, but I don't think he's one of those guys where like I'm gonna reach and take him in the 2nd round just to get the 1 share. Like I just don't think that's a very good bet at that point.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And Cooper, by the way, was talking about Mason Taylor, who it's funny. I was exactly where you were on these tight ends and like a Mason Taylor, for example, pre-draft, Dan.
Yeah.
Maybe Josh has sold me a little bit, but I really didn't like his tape. Like as far, but here's the thing. One thing I noticed on his tape, I see the potential for the PPR scam, which is all you need in these tight end premium
Right.
formats. He's really not that great at anything, though. I'll be honest with that. But Josh he really likes him, so we obviously took him this draft. I thought it was a good deal in a two PPR at 3-1. I'm just looking at the players going behind him, and again, we're talking about the cluster of running backs, the quarterbacks I don't want, like again the other tight ends I don't want. So he just makes sense. He kind of just by default is automatically kind of one of my more favorite picks at the 2-3 turn. Though I think I've only picked him once again I'm not really targeting him in like a no premium.
Right.
But yeah, Cooper mentions analytically like he's like a leading tight end for like LSU all time, but he really wasn't that impressive. He almost like didn't even really get better year by year. He had a really strong like freshman year. Um, I don't know. It's literally for me. It's just like I don't know. NFL sees something in him, draft him really high, and he's on the Jets as a starting tight end. There's not really much competition. I really can't give you a better argument from that. He probably is like not the greatest pick, but by default, like we're talking about with this third round, maybe the real move is just like don't pick him and try to trade up
Yeah.
into Scatabo and
Straight up or down.
yeah, trade up or down. But if for some reason that's not available, like I'm fine in this two PPR formats, like tight end formats, taking him there. I think he's a fine pick, but I certainly, I would not be surprised if he's just kind of like a dead pick at the same time, if that makes any sense at all. Or Gatson's a better pick. My confidence is not through the roof on him.
Yeah, and I don't even love the landing spot. I mean, I guess the advantage of it is that like they really don't have any tight end there in New York, and there's not a whole lot of target competition. It's just Garrett Wilson. So yeah, if he's halfway decent, like he could definitely earn some targets and do something year one, which would certainly be really good for his dynasty value. But still, like Justin Fields as a passer doesn't like really inspire me and like get my juices flowing for like wanting to take a guy. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like meh.
If they had like any other receiver there, like I'd probably be on board. They have no one. Like it's literally just Garrett Wilson. And beyond that, they're like what? It's like Allen Lazard.
Yeah, but here's the problem is it's a tight end, and it's hard to ever count on a tight end producing in year one. I mean, when they do, it's like it's the outlier. It's like Bowers and Laporta and Kyle Pitts. Like it's great, tight end prospects like Bowers and Pitts, or it's a bit of a surprise, an outlier like Sam Laporta. But like just like a random dude like Mason Taylor, who's not even like that amazing of a prospect, and they kind of reached on him in the NFL draft. I feel like it's just kind of like, is he going to be the outlier? Do I really want to like bet on that when I could use that pick to trade up and get someone I like much better, or just someone I think is much more likely to produce in year one? Just for the fact that he's a tight end. Like if we were talking about like a receiver going to the Jets that I really liked as a talent, and okay, I'm not crazy about, he's going to be second fiddle to Garrett Wilson and it's Justin Fields throwing to him. But like, I could make a case that like, oh man, I really love this receiver prospect, and, there's no other competition for targets other than Garrett Wilson. Like, I think I could talk myself into that, but because he's a tight end, I just don't want to count on early production with that position.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. I think those are pretty all fair points. And yeah, Hawkeyes is mentioning, if you're basically a starting tight end, I mean, probably if you're young as well, you're basically like automatically worth like an early third, which I think is like fair. Now you need to be doing something, but like I guess like here's maybe here's like a little bit of an argument for Taylor. Just looking at a couple tight ends that I didn't even like last year, anyways, was Theo Johnson and Sanders. Like they have to be by default worth a third this year, like in a two PPR tight end premium. There is no way anyone in the world is kicking them off for a fourth round pick, right?
Yeah,
so
I agree.
So my point, kind of maybe in a format like this, where you're taking Taylor, from 3-1, 3-2, whatever it is, like his ADP is, it's probably right there, right? You kind of get that free shot. It's like whether you think he's the outlier or not. It's basically like, can he catch 4 to 5 passes each game? If he does, people are gonna fall in love with him, and he's like this instant flippable, like, oh, he's a young guy. They have the Lions pass coordinator to the moon. I just kind of like see the path where like people seem to like him. He has the NFL blood. He doesn't really need to. Tight ends really don't need to do much. Can he catch 4 passes? If he can literally catch 4 design passes, like, and literally just PPR scam, and he doesn't even need to be freaking good at all, honestly. Like, it's kind of my opinion. Because guess what? You look at a guy I didn't really like at all, the Panthers guy there. What's his name again? Sanders.
Yeah.
I could care less. All of a sudden, like week 12 or whatever, I'm interested. I'm going, holy crap! I have 0 this guy. He caught 4 passes the last couple weeks. It's like, oh man, like he looks not bad. It's kind of just, he's just in that realm, right? Where you don't need to do much to maintain your value at all. And he's in a decent.
If Tommy Tremble didn't get injured, Sanders wouldn't even have gotten that opportunity to show what he's capable of, which is unfortunate because it does seem like Sanders can play, and he showed that as soon as he got the opportunity. Yeah. So maybe that's actually a case for Mason Taylor.
I was gonna say, because there's no Tremble. Yeah, there's no Tremble. He got far better draft capital. So I guess my point is, like, I completely see the thing where it's like, yeah, he's probably not the outlier. But I'm just looking at the draft board, and there's nothing that really inspires me beyond, because I know I can get Woody Marks in the late 3rd. I know I can get all these players I like in the late 3rd or waivers or 4th round. So he's kind of by default falls in that early 3rd range in a format like this where he's the 2 PPR.
Let's talk about it a little more specifically. So we've talked about that tier fall off at the end of the 2nd round, like basically after Noel goes off the board. So if you're stuck there, and let's say you can't trade out of the pick, you can't trade back or whatever, or even trade up to a guy that was already drafted, which is, I think, sort of like an overlooked thing that is good to do in these rookie drafts. Like, just because a guy got drafted doesn't mean you can't make that pick on the clock or whatever. Like, you can still make those trades on Sleeper. But in any case, if you're sitting there and you can't trade out of that pick, let's just call it a 0.5 tight end premium. So just kind of a standard Dynasty league, 0.5 tight end premium. Where would you go there at the whatever that is, like 301 after that tier fall off? Would you go Mason Taylor or would you go Blue?
Yeah, well, okay, so this is where, at least my, like, I don't know, the way I'm looking at the board, and we're talking this 2 PPR, correct?
Oh, no, I said 0.5.
Oh, 0.5.
Yeah.
The answer is much easier in 2 PPR because in 0.5, I haven't really been faced with that decision, so I can't even honestly necessarily tell you, like, exactly how I feel. But I think the point for me is
I would take the running back.
But you take running
please go on. Yeah.
Normally, I will take the running back, but this is where it gets iffy because there is such good value down the board on running these running backs, and I always have multiple 3rds and 4ths and stuff like that. That's where I just let the tiebreaker go because I don't even love Blue. Normally, yes, the answer would be Blue, but because there's like 8 other running backs, 12, however many it is to you,
right.
I can just go get Giddens. I can just go get James, Sampson, Hunter, Marks, ETN. My God, the list goes on and on and on. If I want to get a running back, where it goes Taylor. Ferguson's kind of more of a stash guy, and then there's Gadsden, Fan. Like, there's nobody that's gonna be an instant starter like Mason Taylor and get that opportunity. Where at running back, I can find 12 other players like that. So I can understand it from a perspective of like, I don't know if he's going to be worth the 3-1 per se, but I also think I can make a way better pick at 310. Maybe if you 2v2 it kind of thing, where it's like, okay, I'd rather have Mason Taylor and Woody Marks versus Blue and Gadsden or Blue and Fannin. So that's exactly how I'm looking at it. And it's almost like you might have to overpay, Dan, if you want to get a Mason Taylor in your mind. But the thing is you can get these other values with these running backs and other positions on the board.
Yeah, I guess the problem is, though, I know there aren't that many draftable tight ends. So that's the one thing that kind of makes it tricky. But if you're willing to push your luck a bit, I have been kind of pleasantly surprised how late Fannin and Gadsden have been going in a lot of these rookie drafts. And so, like, I feel like they've been, like, sitting there at really attractive spots, like in the I definitely have seen I got Fannin in this draft at the 312. I thought that was a nice value for a 0.75 tight end premium. And then I got Gadsden. Where did I get him here? It was the 4th round. Wait, Oh, this is break room now. Okay, sorry, I'm getting confused. I thought we were still in the Bums and Ballers league, but I basically got him like I think it was like mid fourth, like something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if I can get like one or both of those guys there, like I'm thrilled with that. And then I kind of have my tight ends covered, and yeah, I guess I'd rather just not like reach on Mason Taylor, but depending on the tight
Yeah.
end premium, I can certainly understand it. Like, yeah, if we're talking a full 1.0 tight end premium, well then yeah, I mean you could certainly take Mason Taylor the 301. You know, you could even probably justify it in the late second, even possibly. Although I still wouldn't be crazy about it. But yeah, I get it though. But yeah, I think because Fan and Gatson are going so late, that's making me hard to that's making the other side of that 2v2 look pretty attractive in my mind.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I could definitely see that because that's kind of my argument for the running backs because I like every one of these other running backs so much more. It makes it just that much easier to take. But then here's the one clear separate maybe separator versus running back versus tight end conversation from early third to undrafted whatever or end of the fourth. Mason Taylor is undoubtedly the only starting tight end in of all those tight ends from the third round
Okay.
on. Undoubtedly. There's no other starting tight end day one, right? Unless Gadsden puts up the camp of his life and jumps Disley and by the way, Disley's like the most annoying guy in the world to like overcome because he's just teams just like him, you know?
Right.
Like I really think like, you know, again, Gadsden, if he's a good prospect, all that stuff, the numbers support him. Like not Will Disley's like the last thing for some like as hilarious as that sounds that I want to see ahead of my rookie tight end because teams just goddamn love him.
And Tyler Conklin might be second on that list, so
Right?
he's got to overcome.
So he doesn't have to overcome one; it's two. So I'm cautious about like this whole drafting Gadsden and the over the ETNs and stuff like that. Like I'll take him when he's free / after ETN tier, right?
Yeah.
But the things with the running backs, you got about 12 that can either be the backup by training camp or are basically on paper to be the backup right now. So again, if I'm just completely throwing out the profiles and like give me a starter and a handcuff versus a handcuff and a shot in the dark to hopefully be not the tight end 3 or whatever, hopefully to be the tight end 2. It's just I that's just kind of how I'm looking at it, but I certainly understand basically your points of Taylor just himself as a bet. So like I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. Our two different perspectives on it.
Oh, for sure. And also, I kind of feel like we've buried the lead here because like all we're talking about is rounds 3, 4, like the undrafted guys. Oh, by the way, there's rounds 1 and 2 in our rookie draft, so maybe we should touch upon those as well a little bit.
Yeah.
Typical us. Always wanted to like deep dive everything. But yeah, I guess that's just like where our minds go because those are, those late rounds have been really fascinating in terms of like it being so unpredictable where these guys are going. So I guess that just kind of struck our interest first here naturally. But let's talk about the first 2 rounds, starting with round 1. It has been more of a standardized order, but there are variations there. People have their preferences. How are you looking at the first round? Like, where do you kind of see like the major tier breaks and like, yeah, what tiers are you trying to get into and what picks are you avoiding there in round 1?
Yeah, I feel like I'm more of the consensus on this one. It's basically the top 7 picks or bust for me. And I think you know why, Dan, but I'll explain to those watching. But yeah, basically those top 7 profiles, like those are bets I want to make if I'm making a draft pick. Once you get beyond it,
and just to be clear on what those players are, I mean, is it pretty much like the 7 on this board here?
The 7 on this board, exactly. The last 2 are generally Ward and Judkins. The order I don't necessarily care about. I don't really care to even like chime in on that because like honestly, man, like you could give me an argument, like I'm not even gonna like go against it on anyone's argument of preference, right? But once you get to pick 8, it's just like to me on paper it is such a huge drop off because of all these landing spots, capital, profiles in general. Again, like I like Loveland coming out. I wasn't over the moon on him. But, like, that's a crowded room. I know here's the thing, too. I know he, like, being attached to Ben Johnson is awesome. But you're not even getting a discount on the fact that he's in a crowded room or it even has to still play alongside Komet for what that's worth because he's attached to Ben Johnson, you get basically ADV factored in there if you're taking him in like the pick 8, pick 9, pick 10. It's a different story if you're getting him at the end of the first, whatever it might be, in a good premium. But yeah, to take him one pick after all these superstar players on my board, that's the 108 is basically my least favorite pick. Is the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, because you don't really want to have to choose between like, okay, do I take one of these two top tight ends and like Loveland and Warren, or do I take like Jackson Dart, who I'm not like particularly excited about. I mean, I haven't gotten any shares of him so far. And then with like these receivers like Golden and Burden, honestly, like I feel like I like Golden the best of kind of like this whole tier here from like the 108 onward. Burden, like I'm not. Yeah, I don't know if I'm completely sold on him. Like,
Okay.
like most people like speak glowingly on him, but like when I watch him play, like he doesn't like jump off the screen to me. So like I don't know if like I'm missing something on him, but like I'm still willing to just kind of like trust the experts and like the film guys and everything that like he's a good player. I'm not trying to say like that he's not, but he's just not a guy like I've been like dying to take. And of course, like it's that same crowded room, not just with the tight ends, but with the wide receivers, of course, with DJ Moore and Roma Dunze.
Okay, wait. Let's be clear. Okay, so I was on the clock at 2-2 with Burden in a league, right? And you were, you talked me in, and I just had to make the pick. Like, I that's going to be my Burden share, whatever, right? I couldn't trade up or down. But yeah, you were talking me into it. So were you just talking me into it because he was the 2-2? Or because, like, it sounded like to me you liked kind of the bet on him, potentially?
I still do, but like I just like watched him again recently, and I was like, oh yeah, like I kind of remembered that like I wasn't blown away by just like how he looks like when he plays. So like I'm not like a film expert, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like,
and here's the concern about that, right? You're not the film expert, but if you see what the players he's been pooled up with based off how he produced in college. I mean, like, it is atrocious, right? We're talking Amari Rogers and Malachi Corley. Like, over 50% of his production was off of screens and slot fades, right? Like, that's screens obviously translatable, but like slot fades not so much in the NFL with those wide hashes in college. Like, that part like really really concerns me. It's funny, he's like an analytical darling and like the biggest red flag in if you kind of like actually filter through how those numbers were created. So he's a very polarizing prospect.
I'm still willing to make the bet on him. I mean, like I've seen him. I mean, a lot of times he's going like in that early second round. So like that seems like a really good value for him. So like I certainly wouldn't mind taking him there. I just haven't like been in a position to do that yet for whatever reason. So I haven't gotten any shares of him yet. But yeah, I think that's a fine value. But like honestly, I think my favorite players in this range, which basically goes into like the 203, probably like RJ Harvey and Matthew Golden are like pretty easily like my two favorite players. Then I'd probably say like Burden in there. And then I'm just taking those tight ends as late as possible because, like, I'm just not the tight end guy anymore.
Yeah, I haven't drafted Loveland or Warren yet. I think I've traded out those picks a couple times. I'm open to like taking them if they really start falling to 112 and beyond. Yeah. But in that non-tight end premium, I had one at 2-4 available for me, and I still traded out like. I just didn't need to add a third tight end and non-tight end premium, right? So. Yeah. But yeah, basically, I think the story of this part of the draft for me, I want to have like the 112 if I'm making a pick because I don't want to actually select who it is like I'm taking. I just want the best value on a player in that range if I am going to make a pick because it just falls differently every time. So if you're the one making the pick at the 108, 109, it's basically just like a minus EV strategy.
Yeah, you're just like leaving value on the table. You might as well just like trade back a few picks, let everyone else make the decisions, and then you might even get the guy you were going to take there anyways.
Yeah, or you might just fall on the guy that's better.
Get something on top.
Yeah, or you could just like maybe not get the guy you wanted, but if you just end up making the pick a few picks later, you might actually just get the guy that's better. Like who the hell knows?
Yeah, even if it's not the player you wanted. Exactly, that's a great point. Like But regardless, you're getting a very similar player. I mean, that's why we have them in the same tier. And then yeah, Jackson Dart. I don't know. I just don't really care about him that much. I mean, we'll see whether that's a mistake or not. Like, could he be this year's Bo Nix? I guess the guy left on, or Michael Penix or whatever. But I don't know. I'm just not that excited about him.
I don't believe so. But like at 2-3 value, I mean, like if you basically look at any first round quarterback, like this is my one like argument for him. Though he doesn't have, it's almost like a good thing that he's not gonna play right away. Like almost like the Penix factor.
Right.
I'm not really like giving that like a plus to him, but I think it's not a bad thing at the same time. But some people seem to like him, though he's falling. Like I don't know, the buzz for him pre-draft was there's a lot. It seemed like, whether that's true or not, I'm actually it's hard to tell exactly sometimes. What consensus thinks, but you're getting him as like the last player. Like if he's a first round pick, yeah, I agree. I'm out. I ended up just like, kind of having to take him at 2-3. On a team where I just didn't think I even really needed a quarterback. But, like, I'm fine with that. I think you could probably actually... He's a pretty safe bet. Like, what is he going to do? Like, lose a starting job before he ever gets a chance? Like, he's obviously going to get a chance probably as early as this year. And when that happens, he'll probably slightly rise in value. And if he plays any good, there's a great value increase that you could see. I'm not calling him Bo Nix by any means, but if he could just do half of what Bo Nix did, which, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what that would... be, like Bo Nix did a lot, but if he did a half or just a fraction of it,
maybe, yeah.
Maybe that's a good win.
Maybe for like, yeah. I mean, Bo Nix started the whole season, so if Dart plays half the season and produces even 75% of what Bo Nix did, like that would probably be a win.
So yeah, and I don't think Dart is at all the Bo Nix, but what is at least being overlooked a slight bit at this pick at 2-3, what seems to be just about every draft. Well, he's got legs. Like he loves to run, so regardless of his passing ability, which is very important, I feel, for a player like him. Unlike when you're taking Milroe much later, because Miller is just such a talented rusher. Yeah, Dart obviously has to be able to pass, but man, he can certainly give you a floor with his legs. So there's some upside for him coming right in and doing a dollar store Bo Nix performance.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't really argue with getting a first round draft capital quarterback in the early third. So no complaints there.
Yeah, I think it's actually the cheapest ADP you've ever gotten for a first round quarterback. And maybe it's because he's the worst first round quarterback prospect, but he runs. So
I mean, well, Penix was a little later, wasn't it, last year?
I think by the end it actually would have ended up being right at this range.
But overall, if you average it from all of last year, it probably would have been slightly later. But yeah.
I know we did our Grease Bowl draft where he was 2.8 or 2.9 or whatever, but he basically instantly jumped when we didn't draft the same day, and he was sitting at worst at the 2.4 and then into the first round damn near by the end of it. So yeah, whatever.
Dart's usually going first, early second.
Yeah. So if you remove Penix though, yeah, exactly. He's basically the last because Penix obviously was a special, extremely rare case.
But wait, did Penix ever go in the late first last year? I mean, maybe I'm sure sometimes he did.
Let's just call it 2-1. I saw it plenty of times, like him going ahead of Brooks and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay.
Just those later drafts, right? And I did see him actually go first round one time, but it was a best ball.
Yeah. And then pretty much the next tier after, the tight ends and Dart, you basically have this range from the 204 to basically because if you remove Shedeur Sanders, who I think neither of us have in this tier, and if you also remove Mason Taylor, well, here he went at the 3-1, but we definitely see Mason Taylor going in the second a lot of drafts. So really, if you're not counting those guys, it's basically until the 2-11, basically, right?
I mean, I'll remove Blue and Noel from that.
You gotta remove Blue.
I'll remove Noel from that. I don't want Noel in that because I'm not drafting Noel in the second ever. I've drafted him 2 or 3 times, but it's been
it's been
3-3 and beyond.
Noel lets the tier fall off.
Yeah, I mean, basically the tier fall off. What would that be then? The 2-9.
I mean, okay, maybe think of it this way. Maybe after the.
Look, just remove Sanders. That's it. It's a 2-9. It's a 2-9 then because Scattergo goes.
gotta remove Sanders and Blue.
Well, Blue
Oh,
doesn't matter because it's
I see,
just after
yeah,
Sanders, like Cascadabo's in it, right? Or
I see.
you just swap Scatabo and Sanders. That's all you got to do, right? There's the tier fall off in any order that you want.
Oh, I see. Okay, and that would be the 209.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, really it's the 209, but realistically, because a lot of people are going to take Sanders in the second round, by then they're going to take Mason Taylor there.
Yeah.
Really end up really, yeah, the tier ends up usually being more like the 211, I'm sorry, the 210, 211, 212, somewhere in there. So it's nice that the tier kind of ends up getting pushed just because people make, in our opinion, some questionable picks there. But in theory, or technically, it's really from like the 204 to 209. So pretty much in that tier, in some order, you have Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, Byshell Tootin, Jack Besh, as well as Scatabo.
Yeah.
And then wait, what about Kyle Williams? Are you putting him?
I'm putting Kyle Williams in it. I do kind of have a little questions. He's literally a third round receiver, but I do love him like pre-draft and stuff. So it's pretty hard to weigh. He's a pretty polarizing player. I would probably just put him at the very back of that tier easily.
And are we just as a generality?
Considered.
Are we basically just talking for kind of standard dynasty league,
just,
0.5 type premium, 12 teams,
he would be like default my 2-9 if we're talking. Really, it didn't matter any format, whatever. Sure, you can take him ahead of Mason Taylor, but if you want, but yeah, I just can't really give him an argument for ahead of these other guys. And I'm not even saying he's a bad pick. It's just kind of hard.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I do like Kyle Williams. It seems like he's talented. He looks good when you watch him on tape, and it seems like a lot of smart people like him, like Matt Harmon. And yeah, I just watched a video of I think it was on the Ron Stewart channel. He was talking about 6 receivers that you shouldn't leave your draft without, and he talked about a lot of guys that we already like. So that was just kind of nice validation of some of the wide receivers that we're into this season. And yeah, some of them are going to this range, like Jack Bash. But yeah, I mean, what do you make of kind of this range here? But yeah, Bash and Kyle Williams were both on that list for Matt Harmon.
Well,
but yeah, kind of, what do you make of this range? I know you haven't been ending up with much of Jaden Higgins or Trey Harris, who are often the first couple guys that go in this tier. I'm definitely a fan of both of them. But yeah, explain why you haven't ended up with any shares of them, even though you kind of like them as prospects.
Yeah. So to be clear, I have and through 6 drafts, I have 1 share of all 4 of those receivers from 2.4 to 2.8 in this draft here. Williams, Besh, Harris, and Higgins. And the one is Besh, which I thought I got a really good deal on 2.11. I believe it was. So, yeah, I mean, basically why I'm not getting any is, well, number one, it's really hard because Tootin and Scatabo are sitting there. And, I mean, I do really love them. I think there's an argument for both of them ahead of Caleb Johnson, personally. Or just to be, I think a better way to put it is they're a better bet at ADP than Caleb Johnson, who seems to be going 1.9, 1.10 mostly. This draft, of course, he went 2.1.
Honestly, yeah, we completely forgot to mention Caleb Johnson, but yeah, neither of us are particularly high on him. I mean, he almost inevitably goes. I don't know.
I think he's our candidate. He actually his ADP on that Dynasty Data Lab. I don't trust that ADP at all. By the way, it's very skewed by whatever the hell's going on in Dynasty World and these free leagues and stuff. But
yeah, I think it's kind of leagues that are just played by casuals and stuff like that. They're kind of messing up the ADP.
Yeah, and maybe they're using this actual CPR ADP from 3 months ago to draft. It says he's 1.9 or 1.10. I think it's about accurate, honestly, though. For in his case, from what I've been seeing him go, and I think he is my candidate for he's technically the worst pick if I'm looking at all these player profiles and what the range of outcomes are and stuff. I think he's actually the worst pick, and there's just so many more options. Running back is plentiful. I don't think you need to take him at 1.9, 1.10.
Yeah, I mean, I would put him in that tier from the 108 to 203. And maybe even closer to the back of it. But honestly, I'm much more excited about drafting Scatabo and Tootin. Maybe even straight up, honestly. Yeah. I mean, it might sound crazy to say because it's against consensus, but the good news is like you don't have to draft him over. You can just trade back. Yeah,
And
which is even what I do in the league.
get
So I
them
got some.
damn near 7 to 12 picks behind times, right? So a lot of times you can actually get those guys about up to 12 picks like lower, right? These guys are going around 2.7, 2.8. Scatabo kind of going in a little bit wider range, but
Yeah.
So I mean, I completely agree. It's basically where I'm at, and that's why in this draft you're seeing, we if you want to call it a reach, a couple picks on Tootin, get our guy, and then have Scatabo fell. I just think they're better. They're better bets for cheaper. You're not spending a first round pick on them. You're spending that mid second generally. I'd rather have the combo of Tootin and Scatabo, which like probably for trade value, one Caleb Johnson equals two of like the Tootin and Scatabo. Does that not sound about right for value? If you were to trade off the,
I don't know if it's quite that much. Hey, are you frozen?
You hear me?
Yeah, I guess so, but like, I can now. Yeah, you froze for a second. Yeah, but I got the gist. Yeah, I mean, you have a point. Like on the clock, I guess that's probably true. But like immediately after the rookie draft, does that still hold? Like, I'm not so sure. Like, I'm much more excited about owning.
You'll never get that, but like, let's just say, you're trading back from the 1.9, or you can take Caleb Johnson. I think you could easily get, whatever it is, 2.5 and 2.8 or whatever it is that you need to get the Scatto Tootin combo on. And I'd much rather have the two of them.
It's just hard to believe anyone could be that much higher on Caleb Johnson than having like those pair of running backs and Tootin and Scatabo. Like that blows my mind. I mean, like I really think it's possible like Tootin and Scatabo just end up being better running backs than Caleb Johnson.
Both of them could be.
Yeah. I'll definitely make that trade back.
Yeah, and I mean maybe that's the best trade back you can do if you're in that range with Caleb Johnson on the clock. Because I think that's extremely realistic.
Yeah, I think that's a great call there. But yeah, with this tier from the 204 to 209, is the reason you haven't gotten much of Higgins and Harris because like you don't want to be at the beginning of the tier. Like you'd rather just have other people make the decision, trade back, get the value on top, and then just kind of take whomever falls there.
Yeah, we got sidetracked there by the running backs, but that is a lot of it, right? Like I'm just a big sucker in drafting it all. In like, I don't want to be making these tough decisions and being so confident that I'm just the player to take. Like that's where you get in trouble, right? When you're playing these multiple leagues. If you're in one league, that's fine. But I'm just looking at the outlooks. I guess like I kind of just like create what's logical in my brain. These range of outcomes for all these players based off all the information I have, right? And I'm just not seeing too high of a ceiling on Higgins especially. Again, he could be good. He could be solid. I don't think he's going to be the home run pick that, I don't know, maybe that I'm looking for in an early second round pick or early to mid second round pick, where I think like Tootin and Scatabo have that, like, just to compare, right? I think those guys could be absolute home runs. I think Besh has the biggest potential home run of any of these guys here, to be honest. Okay. That's how I've really been feeling. I did coincidentally get that share, but I think I even got that share. No, I did get it before, but I had passed on Besh in a league, and even afterwards I was thinking, I don't know if that was right because I did take Tootin over him, but like I think that just told me something when I passed on him that like I really think Besh could be the best receiver in this entire tier, and I'll never draft him ahead of those other guys, but I'll probably end up with easily the most Besh of all four of these receivers if he's going to be the last or third, second to last taken in every draft.
Yeah, and I agree with Higgins and Harris that like the path to year one fantasy relevance isn't like super clear. I'm still willing to just like bet on the talent of those guys. Both are tied to pretty good quarterbacks. I mean there is going to be a lot of competition for targets in both those offenses on the Chargers and Texans. But I'm still happy to like make those bets. Like it might not be like a home run year one, but yeah, if you really are thinking with the perspective of like who's going to hit year one and then their dynasty value is going to increase and just kind of really playing the market, I really think Tootin and Scatabo are probably like kind of like the no-brainer picks like in this range, especially if, I mean, of course, the later you can get them, the better. And I mean, I've gotten Tootin at the 212. I couldn't believe he fell that far. In fact, I mean, he's like basically tied as like my most owned rookie player so far. I've done 6 rookie drafts so far, and I have 3 shares of Tootin. And I mean, I can even share who my other guys are. Okay, so the players I have 3 shares of through 6 rookie drafts are Byshell Tootin, Woody Marks, Jordan James, Aronde Gadsden, and Ja'Cory Croskett Merritt, the Commanders running back. So, yeah, I guess those are pretty much my guys. I also have a handful of guys that I have 2 shares of. So it's just been kind of fun keeping track of that and seeing like, yeah, which of the players that I'm higher on than the market. But yeah, in this range here, like I absolutely love Tootin and Scatabo. I definitely see pretty clear paths toward year 1 production and fantasy relevance and value increase in terms of their value in the dynasty market. And we've talked about this, although I don't know how much we've talked about it specifically on stream, but I mean, I'm not too worried about Tracy. I mean, it seems like Scatabo is a guy that can just do it all. So I definitely think, he'll go in there, and I think he's going to win the job sooner than later. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be like a 3-down workhorse, but I think he could work his way into getting the lion's share of the touches in that backfield with the Giants. And then with Tootin, I mean, like, how do you not love having the running back tied to Cohen there with the Jags? We saw what he did with Bucky Irving last year. So, I mean, you're hoping with Tootin that he's going to be like this year's Bucky Irving. That would be amazing, of course. There's some competition there with ETN and Bigsby, who I think are both good players. I know no one seems to ever give Tank Bigsby any respect, but I think he's pretty good. But Cohen drafted Tootin, so I think like he's definitely going to have the advantage there. And that's just an exciting offense that you're going to want pieces of. Of course, like Travis Hunter going to the Jags, like, we haven't even talked about that yet. And it seems like he's going to be playing wide receiver. So, of course, Blake, you and I have both been taking pretty much as much Travis Hunter as we can get, especially you. I think you already got, like 2 or 3 shares of him?
2, yeah.
But I think Tootin and Scatabo, like those seem like the easiest path to increasing in value year 1 in that range here.
Yeah, and I sorry, I had to go there for a moment. So.
Yeah.
And Besh. Yeah, honestly, I think I've had a big change in philosophy, last year, and I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see if it's going to be more because like recency bias or whatever. But I don't think it's like if you're factoring in some recency bias, like I don't think it's entirely a bad thing, right? Because my lesson I've learned from potentially the second round, right, is I want guys that are, if I'm going to be paying this opportunity cost, like I want to have a guy that like I think can just have a path to not only just like being good, hopefully they have a path to just being good like week 1 or just like, early on in their career, and generally by the first year, right? Because if they don't do anything in their first year, no one cares about them the second year. Look at all these running backs, Bensons and Corums, and then they get replaced, and then it's just like no one freaking cares at all, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't think Tootin's the most sound pick if you're looking at the depth chart. But again, it's everything you're probably just saying about like the Cohen pick, and they don't really have ties to everything. So it's just like you just see the Bucky thing is like, screw it, man, I'm buying it. That's all I need to see. He's an athletic running back. He was a clear sleeper. I love when there's like a clear sleeper and they win. They get the draft capital. They get this awesome landing spot, and it's just like with their coach. It's just like there's just not much things not to like. I really can't say many bad things about Tootin, and I think he's gonna have the opportunity, out the gate potentially, or at least by where he just develops. It gets better and better and better every week, and his price will get better and better every week. And again, Scatabo could be an absolute week 1 workhorse. Like who the hell knows right now. But I don't really think Tracy's going to be holding him back, and Scatabo's getting all these goal line work, catching passes.
Right, he does it all.
Those 2 guys, and especially Scatabo, I think that's why I actually have Scatabo over Tootin now. I've basically come to determine, but they're close.
Oh, yeah.
I just think the outlook's very clear for them day 1, or whatever, year 1, and that's what I want to make on a bet on for this tier. It's really just
and also like they might be two of the funnest players like in this whole draft. I mean, like Scatabo speaks for its, for himself. Like everyone loves him. If he does anything, like his dynasty value could go through the roof. If he takes over that job there, like everyone's gonna love him and want him on their fantasy rosters. And then with like Tootin, like just so explosive, so fast, like, and you combine him with that Jags offense, all the weapons they got there, and Cohen running the show after what we saw with Bucky Irving. Like it might just really be that simple with Tootin. So like, yeah, I mean, I've even have had at least one draft where I got both those guys. I think you did as well in at least one draft, Blake.
Right,
so
I know 2 drafts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't even looking at the details there, but yeah, 2 extremely fun players, and I think we're going to see them be relevant in fantasy in year 1.
Yeah, no, exactly. And between those receivers, honestly, the way I'm leaning right now, again, I really like Kyle Williams. He, at the end of the day, I think I like just Besh more, and I think Besh is my pick from those guys at value.
Besh has the draft capital round 2, right? So Kyle Williams kind of stands out as like he's like the 1 3rd round draft capital wide receiver in this range. So that makes him dicier. Like if you look at like historically like wide receivers going in round 3, like it's not amazing. But I don't want to just be a prisoner to that. I mean, I think Kyle Williams could be one of the outliers. I don't want to call it outlier, but just one of the exceptions to the rule, I guess.
And I agree. Like the reason I'm not drafting like Kyle Williams at this moment is not because he's the early 3rd round pick, whatever. Like he hit that threshold. He's out of the threshold. I can't draft him. It's not that. But I just basically everything we just talked about these other players has been preventing me from taking them. And people have been extremely high on Kyle Williams, which I didn't expect. Because he's also an ADP glitch guy.
He's also buried, but yet somehow everyone has been known to like scroll down and draft him there in the 2nd. And then with Bash in the year 1 relevance, I mean, not only does he have the good draft capital and everything, and we think he's like a good receiver, a good prospect, and everything like that. But like, I mean, they have Bowers there, they have Jacoby Myers, but like, I mean, they could use like an alpha receiver. So like the hope is that Besh would be that, and that he could be the number 1 receiver, even if he's not the number 1 target with Bowers there. But I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe they're kind of like Bowers and Besh are like kind of the maybe 1A and 1B in terms of like targets in that offense. But I think there is still some good opportunity there. And then I don't know if you wanted to say anything more about Besh, but I also wanted to talk about like kind of that next tier after. Maybe there's sort of like a mini tier with like Knoll and Blue, and maybe you throw like Mason Taylor in there. Like, is there kind of like a mini tier there before it's the Wild West there?
Yeah, I'll call it because I've technically drafted at least one of each of these guys. I've drafted Blue once, Taylor once, and then Knoll 2 or 3 times. But every time I've taken, that's the best part about this mini tier is they kind of go everywhere. They're not actually at the 2-3 turn every time. Though, maybe a lot of times they are. When I'm drafting them, sure, I get Taylor here 3-1 and the 2 PPR tight end, but I've gotten Jalen Knoll at the 3-4, the 3-3 at least. If I have drafted him more than that, it was also because he was at the 3-3 or 3-4 or beyond, whatever. And it's just at that point, it's the same argument for Taylor, right? Like, there's no other receiver in this area. Like, I just can give an argument for it to draft in the 3rd round, and it's like, all right, man, like, I'll just take him, and I'll take care of my running backs later. It's almost like you could technically put Knoll behind those other running backs, like Marks and Giddens and etc. But it just doesn't matter. You have to draft them out of order if you want to diversify and if you want any shares. So I'm willing to do that for a guy like Knoll, who I liked pre-draft. And again, it's a little mucky a little murky, whatever you want to say about the situation. But I do think, again, at receiver, talent can overcome it. And, can he be more productive than Higgins year 1? I don't think it's crazy to say, though. Sure, it's unlikely on paper right now. But again, things aren't always so black and white is what I'll say. Is like, I'm trying to keep in mind, we don't just have everything's just not as it seems in the offseason where it's so clear, he was a higher pick. He's going to be the number 2 option, right? I don't think it's always...
of course, like Knoll needs to beat out Christian Kirk for like the slot receiver, and then even if he does that, then he's still contending for targets with Nico Collins, established stud there, as well as Jaden Higgins, who damn near got 1st round draft capital. I mean, he went very, very early in the 2nd round. So I think that's also something that's been attracting me to Jaden Higgins. especially kind of using that as a tiebreaker over Trey Harris. Although I love Trey Harris as well, so I mean I'll take either of those guys. But yeah, Noel's definitely a fun player, and similar to Higgins and even Harris, like he's just one of those guys where like I don't know exactly what the path is to like being truly like fantasy relevant in year one.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna bet on the talent and just kind of bank on that.
Yeah, exactly. And Blue, what are you doing, Blue, here? Because I took him one time just to take him because I don't expect to have much. Got him at like 3-3 or something.
Right.
What are you doing, Blue? Do you like him at all?
I mean, I got 2 shares of him so far in the 6 draft, so he's just kind of a guy I've kind of been like just kind of like stuck drafting, I guess. Like, not that I hate him or anything, but like he just wasn't really someone that was like on my radar like pre-draft, and like he gets the good landing spots, so it's like okay, well I guess he's relevant now. I mean, he's fast, so and there should be opportunity with the Cowboys, so yeah, I don't want to say I'm stuck with him. Like I'm happy to have him. And he could be explosive and could be like the guy there, or at least like the main guy in that backfield on a good offense. So yeah, I mean, I could definitely talk myself into Blue, and I have done that a couple times. So happy to have even like up to a few shares of him potentially. I mean, I guess I'm in like 12 leagues at this point. So so far I got him in 2 of the 6 rookie drafts that I've done. So yeah, if I end up with like 4 shares of him, like I'll be fine with that. Maybe I trade off with like 1. So 3 shares sounds about right. But yeah, happy to have him there. But like, it does kind of feel like a consolation prize because like you've like missed out on that tier. So like, sometimes I try to trade up, but if I can or I don't for whatever reason, and I'm just kind of stuck making the pick there, he's just kind of like a natural guy to take because I'm going to take him over Mason Taylor unless it's like a big tight end premium. But yeah, I'll take Noel over both of them for sure. I mean, that's just the way I've been drafting. But you could certainly make a case that Blue has a much easier path to fantasy relevance. But I'm just going to bet on the talent with Noel. But yeah, I definitely don't mind having a few shares of Blue.
Yeah, the Noel versus Blue conversation is pretty tough for me because I like Noel so much more, but better than Blue. But even for me, that's really hard to like try and put one over the other because Blue's is way more clear. But I think the key for like when I'm drafting is when I got Blue, Noel was already off the board. When I get Noel, Blue's already been off the board every single time, and that's just how I want to keep playing it. I want to get myself in the position where I'm never having to make that choice, and I'm just getting the cheapest shares possible. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I just think that's kind of just the, call it the coward's way, but it's it's just.
I think it's smart because like
when you're playing in like 12 plus leagues, whatever it is, even 6, like. It's just not smart to pay the highest price in every draft. Okay, I want this guy in this draft, and I want Golden at 1.8 in here or whatever, and I want Blue at 2.10 here. Just take them when they fall.
Yeah. Well, because you get more value that way. Like if you're at like the 108 and you don't want to make the decision, you trade back a few spots and you get something on top for trading back, and then you just take the guy that falls. And like we were saying, like you might get the guy that you were going to take at the 108 anyways, or maybe you settled for the guy that, you didn't want as much, but it was in the same tier, but then that guy ends up being better anyway. So it just seems like the smart way to play Dynasty. So I'm totally on board with that. I mean, I think there are certainly guys that you have conviction on that like you're willing to like take a stance, but like if you don't feel strongly and you think a couple guys are in the same tier, whatever, like just take the value of trading back and taking the cheaper one.
Yeah. In most cases of you feel strongly about 48 players, at least in a positive fashion, right? Maybe a guy or two in each round, and so like that's kind of the case. What we mentioned, Scatabo and Tootin, I'm willing to take them a pick or two before I think they're gonna go, just to get them. And these teams need running backs, a lot of mine anyway, so it's even better. So it's just like, easy to take a stance on those guys, or Woody Marks at 310 or whatever. And who the hell knows where Woody Marks would be going, by the way, if we were in these drafts. I'm seeing on Twitter, like, people getting them in the late 4th, which is, again, just the ADP glitching and the fact that, like, when you click on him, it's like W Marks here. Oh, they changed it. Okay. It used to say, like, Quadarius Marks or something. That was not Woody. But like no one even really talked about. I never even heard him mentioned once in pre-draft. I don't think a single time. I just kind of stumbled upon him myself, like doing the research, and I think you did too, Dan. and I loved him.
And I heard him talk about it a little bit, but he wasn't like
Okay.
one of the big names of the course or anything. Like I thought he was gonna be one of
Yeah.
those guys that like was gonna be underrated and like falls to like the sixth, seventh round.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, how did he not go till then? Because I felt I heard more about Brashard Smith, and then
Oh,
they
way
kind
more.
of yeah, and then they kind of like swapped. Like Woody Mark. Hopefully they figure the offensive line out. Hopefully Stroud plays better. But you just have Mixon there, who's coming off a good season, but faded a bit at the end. I think he'll be good again to start the season, but how long does it last? Does he hit that age cliff? And I mean, Woody Marks is just the clear running back behind him, and you like when the starter's on the older side. So I just think there's good opportunity, either through injury or performance, to have a meaningful role at some point this season.
Yeah, there's just so many good things to say about Marks, basically, except for his age. And honestly, man, like late third, whatever. I don't even care, man. He could be 42 years old and whatever. If he's a rookie, like.
Yeah. And by the way, Hawkeyes just says Dan is frozen.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
You were frozen for a moment there, but you came back in.
Okay. Oh, by the way, Hawkeyes also says Tootin and Besh is a 50-50 for me. If I'm the pick behind and both are there, I'm happy. But Tootin is like my 205 and Besh my 206. Yeah, it sounds about right. I think probably all three of us are probably feel similarly about those two guys.
Yeah. I mean, I think that could be kind of exactly around the ADP of how I actually feel about those guys. Kind of like Scatterbo at 4, but you don't have to draft them that way. So exactly. So that's the best part. But yeah, that's really how I felt. Cooper, when I was on the clock, I had just taken Scatterbo at 2.6. I'm on the clock at 2.7. Or what was it? I had picked 7 and 8. Who cares? But I just I had a really tough time picking between Tootin and Besh. And I ended up going Tootin, but I almost regret it. Not because I don't like Tootin, because I think I like both of them a lot. That was a good value for both players.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where, whichever one you didn't pick, you're going to be it's like the one that got away. Oh, man, did I make the right choice there? Like in the Bums and Ballers draft, I had 3 picks in a row in, the, kind of mid-second or whatever. And it was basically choosing, 3 of the 4 players of Higgins, Harris, Scatterbo, and Tootin. It's like, oh, man, how do I leave one of these guys out? I love all 4 of these guys. So I ended up leaving Harris out, so I took Higgins, Scatterbo, and Tootin. But yeah, it's one of those things where you're always gonna be wondering, ooh, did I make the right decision there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hey, man, it's tough, and making those decisions, and you always know you're gonna make the wrong one, man. So
and Hawkeye said, I've seen Woody Marks interview. Definitely the kind of player coach loves. He does all the dirty work and is a pass catching specialist, but I worry about his actual talent translating. He has 5.5 yards per carry. Okay, yeah. I mean, why are you concerned? Why are you worried about it translating, Cooper? Let us know about that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He is a pass catching specialist. I mean, he caught a third amount of passes at USC, so. You definitely love to see that for fantasy. So, yeah, we're definitely excited about him. But, yeah, let us know why you think that might not translate.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm interested to see what he has to say about the translation. But one thing I'm looking at is, I don't even care if he might not even be a good running back for all I know. But, he looked good on the tape, and he catches passes. And, look at Rachaad White. What was he, the RB4? He was extremely inefficient, but he caught passes and, was just athletic and decent enough. I just feel like there's, maybe there's some similarities, if he gets a chance to a Rachaad White kind of bet, where it's who really cares if he's any good? If he's getting the touches, catching the balls, scoring fantasy points.
That sounds really gross, though. Woody Marks looks, explosive as hell and looks like a damn good player. I hate to put him in the category of Rachaad White, but I get your point.
If he was Rachaad White, my God, he'd be the best draft pick on the board.
Well, we're talking about 2 different things. We're talking about there's talent and then there's fantasy relevance and production. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm saying for if you followed a similar path, I mean I mean, hey, he was drafted behind Fournette, where at whatever 28, 29 years old, where he's Marks is getting drafted behind what 20 or
Yeah.
29-year-old Mixon.
Yeah, so I
So
mean, it's an
some
interesting
similarities.
comparison, even if they're different levels of talent
Yeah,
or playing styles or whatever. But yeah, they both catch passes, so yeah, I can definitely see some similarities there. We should probably wrap up pretty
yeah,
soon
yeah.
here, but we still got like 5 people watching, so thank you everyone for joining us here on this Tuesday night here. We normally stream Wednesday night and Sunday night, but every once in a while we do things a little differently, and we both had gotten a bit busy lately, so we weren't able to stream for like the past week since the draft. So we definitely just wanted to get on here as soon as we could and kind of react to everything and break down these rookie drafts. If you guys have any questions for us, like about your dynasty teams or things decisions you're struggling with, like definitely drop those in the chat here before we sign off. But anything else you want to talk about, Blake, before we wrap things up?
Well, Cooper was mentioning just why we thought it wouldn't translate was I think this is like a dynasty domain. Like I saw a video one time about these yards after catch stat. And it's interesting because I think you could take a lot of information off what the I don't know. I guess of like what's the causation or this like correlation between this yards per catch stat. But basically, like if you don't reach a certain threshold, like you're not a top 24 fantasy running back unless you're an outlier. Basically, it's like crazy how much correlation there is in it, though, right? And so it's pretty interesting. But
I see. I'm sorry. The 5.5 YPC, that was yards per catch. I was thinking yards per carry. That's why I was confused about it.
Yeah, yards per catch. So it's an interesting conversation. Okay, so you had 6.8 last season. Just improvement. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation about like, how much that matters. I mean, again, he is a handcuff. He's getting drafted really late. I think is the key. Is like you're not taking him in the second round, right? If he had
you're getting him in the third or fourth, and Cooper also did point out that Woody Marks is already 24. Not a huge deal to me, but he doesn't have a ton of runway in terms of like being able to show something and have a chance to increase in dynasty value.
Yeah, I think it's basically when I'm looking at him. I think every kind of point against him is just being over. It's just being overcompensated in his value, and I think like there's a lot of players going ahead of him that I would not take ahead of him, which is why I love him so much. But yeah, I mean, is he? Do I know he's going to be some amazing pick? Absolutely not. I think he fits the bill though. Absolutely.
I'm surprised his yards per catch is that low. I mean,
it's probably because he caught so many balls.
That's it, yeah.
He caught way more balls than any other player, right? So if those other players had one catch,
it's easier to have a higher yards per catch on like smaller volume because you could kind of just get lucky. You break one big play and it jacks up your average. But when you're catching like I don't know what his most catches was in a season. I think it was something ridiculous.
It was like
just
50 plus,
like 75 passes in a season or something like that. It's going to be harder with that volume to keep up like a really kind of absurd like yards per catch. So it might be somewhat the result of that, but like, I mean, he looks very explosive. He just looks like he knows what he's doing as a football player. So like, I'm not too worried about that, even if it would be some kind of statistical outlier.
Yeah, I guess this would be an interesting point about about that stat. Actually, I love that you brought that up. I mean, he had, what is this? That's roughly 200 catches in college as a running back. I mean, most running backs are getting, 30 to 50 catches, and you're loving that in their college career? So, I mean, he has in their career. So he has 4 times that, and he's only got 4 years play, which a lot of these running backs have anyways. So, to my point, I wouldn't worry too much about the... oh, by the way, actually, it's saying right here 7.3, but I guess his career... Actually, that's interesting. Maybe the stat's wrong or something, Cooper, but, I mean, it's saying 6.8 like you mentioned, then 7, 3, 6, and 6.1. So I don't know what to make of that, but yeah, I just think the interesting point, the target share is there, what you want, and he caught a hell of a lot of balls. So, with a bigger sample size, if he broke one, it's just not going to affect the sample as much as these other college backs that when they catch 30 college balls and one of them goes 100 yards,
Yeah,
the
then they
samples.
have like a jacked up
Yeah,
inflated average. Yeah,
yeah, it
I,
doesn't.
I think that's what we're comparing it against. Yeah, so
Yeah, I really think that's an interesting point, though. I mean, that's would be probably our read on that.
yeah.
Yeah, 80
Because yeah, I
catches.
wonder if you look in like in the NFL, if you look at like some of the pass catching specialist running backs that have had like really ridiculous seasons of like absurd amount of catches in a season, like how many of them had a really high yards per catch with a really high value? I'm guessing
Yeah,
not a ton.
yeah. You want to just for fun? Do you want to pull up like I don't know, like let's just call it like Rashad White or
Todd White,
something? I don't know.
or even like, or even do like James White, another White there.
I guess that
pass
would.
catching.
Yeah, let's just see for him for fun. James White, college.
I know he had a season where he finished like as a like top 15 running back or something like that in fantasy.
Yeah.
I think something like that.
This will just be interesting because at this point, a different era. But let's just see for fun.
Sure.
I mean, look at this. He had 73 career receptions in college.
Oh, I thought you were going to look at the NFL stats, but you could look at college.
No,
too.
yeah, I was just comparing for college because that was kind of like the conversation of that. Like, who would be the next best like receiving back? That kind of comes to mind. Let's do like recent memory though, as far as like past decade coming up.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, there aren't as many like pass catching specialists anymore. Oh, Theo Riddick, Detroit Lion. Let's do. I mean, I guess I don't know. He's been out of the NFL for a few years now.
Yeah,
but,
he'd be pushing it, but yeah.
Okay.
Let's see what.
We're going deep here. Theo Riddick's college stats. Did you think we were going to cover that on today's live stream?
Yeah. Yeah, same amount of years. Again, I mean, he's got about roughly 80 less catches than Woody Marks had, though.
So what was his yard? Okay, so it's not a good comparison then.
His yards per reception was better per each on a smaller sample. But one thing Cooper did mention, which I completely forgot, it's yards after catch that is like the stat, I guess, that they use. It's not yards per reception, which is interesting. Because, though, one thing about that stat that I think is really, like, you really need to look at, like, how they're catching balls. If you're catching the ball behind the line of scrimmage, which, if you get that many receptions like Woody Marks, I'm assuming he probably is. So whether this is a good thing for him or not, I'm not sure. But if you're catching balls behind the line of scrimmage, you're going to get more yards after catch. That's just a fact. If you maybe you burn for a streak or a wheel route, okay, maybe you're getting more. But if you're just kind of working in that intermediate and you're like actually a good route runner, getting a lot of receptions that way, you're gonna get smoked the second you touch the ball, more than likely, right? Like if you're just looking at, I guess, the value of yards per reception, or yards after reception, I guess like where you're catching the ball, that is a pretty big factor. So. Again, is it correlation? Is it causation?
Yeah, and I think that's the danger of like some of these like metrics where you like, look at something like very specific like that, like yards after catch for running backs in college, and then like say, oh well, it puts them into this group with like these running backs, and then it's like a terrible list. It's like, oh gosh, well now I guess I can't draft Woody Marks now. It's like, no, baloney. Like I think like too often like we just sort of like look with tunnel vision on things like that, and we just forget to look at the context. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Well, I don't
want to get like product things.
Yeah, I agree. That's why the best analytics and people in them are actually like they're able to figure out what that context is and then figure out how to incorporate it. Right? It's not just they're in this bucket, you can't draft them. You're looking at the whole picture, which you're alluding to. Which I agree.
Yeah, and sometimes also like metrics just like trump common sense. Like we can see that, like, I mean, not that we're like film experts, but like sometimes you can just see like this player can play, but no, this metric says we can't draft him. So it's just like, well, no, to hell with it. Like I'm gonna make an exception here. I'm gonna still draft this guy. So. Yeah,
no, absolutely. But yeah, one thing we can, by the way, just I guess we'll quickly go over, which is in the middle of start. This is the slowest startup draft I've ever been in. And it's caught started quite a controversy. Of course, Coda in the middle of it. He's been on the clock a million times, trading around, and he's been getting torn into here. It seems like every day, but he is on the night shift and all, so it's harder to make trades and stuff when he's up versus sleeping. So
Right.
it's kind of been a good joke going on. Just yeah, it's just like, oh, see you in 8 hours, basically when he's on the clock. Um, but anyways, yeah, I thought this was like a really fun start. I'm co-managing this with my buddy Trent, and just to briefly run through it, we traded back from 1-1, ended up getting Chase, which was our goal. Get Nico Collins 212, thought that was an amazing deal. Get Bo Nix, I thought that was the best deal of all at 310. And then we auto draft accidentally to at 6-6 while falling asleep, while trying to trade back. So I didn't like hate the pick. It's just I wanted to get him at a cheaper value. I didn't want to pick him ahead of a bunch of players in the same range. Ended up getting stuck with that, but we also did draft. I mean, my God, the 103 at 4-6. Like what a robbery there, in my opinion. 4-6 being taken.
Yeah, the rookie 103. Yep.
Yeah, I mean behind Higgins. I mean, I guess you look at the players. Like, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good players going, but like, are you kidding me? Kyron Williams ahead of the 103 is just it's blasphemy.
Oh,
I mean,
that's I can't believe that.
you like arguably can't even get like a first or like a late first for him
Right.
on the market. So
Yeah.
hey, I'm not complaining, landing it. And then basically went 110, and we've been kind of trading around here. We have 3 firsts now.
Oh, wow.
Including our own. So, and 2 this year. So, and a load of picks coming up. So yeah. Anyways, that was just kind of like a brief look at our draft. There, we're about to be in the clock, and by the way, just look at a couple of these picks here. I mean, this is identical to break room. So start 11, 2 PPR reception, but like Pitts at the 8-4 makes me want to vomit. Kincaid at 7-5 is like arguably worse. I mean, I guess maybe not, but if we're talking about Pitts at 8-4, but he's just as bad of a pick in my opinion. And one interesting thing here, Dan, at pick 8-3, what rookie pick do you think this is here? Without even looking at the rest of the board, what pick would you guess is at the 8-3? Yeah,
I would think that second round.
Okay, yeah, it is in fact the 2-1 right here. So,
Okay.
I guess now that I'm looking again, it's pretty reasonable with the players going off the board, but I mean DJ Moore went off after the 112, which was pretty interesting.
Okay, that is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because maybe DJ Moore has probably gone down with the Burden selection. The Bears taking Burden in the draft. But yeah, normally you can get a first for DJ Moore. So yeah, that is a little surprising.
yeah. Normally you can get easily a first for him, especially after the Ben Johnson thing. But anyways, yeah, I thought there was a couple interesting.
Hawkeyes. Hawkeyes likes your draft here. He says they have Chase, Nico, Nix, and Tua, and 3 extra firsts is awesome into the 8th. And then he also said, finishing the conversation about Woody Marks, he said, I would have said the same about. Oh, I'm sorry. He says Marks actually ran a pretty good route tree at USC, but he was a check down, of course. His receiving is a great plus. Oh, wait. No, I think I already read that one. No, he said just worried about the pure talent, probably more than the other rookie draft running backs. Okay, yeah, I don't think I had read that before. And then the other thing he said is, I would have said the same about Kyron, though, and the hit rate is still great, but I'd rather take an ETN or a Taj Brooks. Okay. Yeah, so just kind of finishing that conversation. I'm kind of fading here. I better be heading to bed soon. This was fun. Glad we could get back on here and stream again. Felt like it had been way too long, and obviously so much happened with the NFL draft and all the impact of that. So I'm glad we could get on here and finally cover that. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was great having some people in here and having the comments in the live chat there. So definitely like the stream if you enjoyed it. Hit that bell if you guys want to be notified anytime we go live. And definitely subscribe if you're new around here. Like, if you love Dynasty, like, this is where you need to be. So definitely subscribe. And hopefully we will be back on tomorrow for our usual night, Dynasty and beers. So, yeah, anything else you want to add, Blake?
No, appreciate Coop, chatting there again. It's a good conversation as well, like kind of the chat there. And yeah, that was a good stream. Glad to be back. And we'll see if we can get at it tomorrow.